friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Stephanie, and in today's video I'm going to share with you my pantry makeover. So I kind of want to share with you what my thought process was and how I wanted this pantry to function. So the wire shelving in this closet pantry was very common or standard for most homes that have this similar type of pantry in their homes, and it's those deep white wire shelves, and I didn't like it because I felt like I wasn't taking advantage of all of the space inside this pantry. I would always put everything at the front so that way it could be easily accessible, and stuff just kept getting dumped in the back or spill over in the back. Now I did make a somewhat change to this pantry a couple years ago, I want to say about 2, and it worked for a couple of years. However, like, things change and the function just wasn't there anymore. During the time that I did do the first pantry organization slash makeover, all I did was added some cardboard poster board that was sturdy enough to cover the wire racks, and then I just used some contact paper that looked like wood to make it look somewhat aesthetically pleasing. I also had added an L-shaped type of shelving at the very bottom, thinking that that would be the solution to help with all of my kitchen appliances to be placed on. But over time it was just chaos, and it would actually just look like we just dumped a bunch of bags and grocery bags, and the appliances would end up falling in there, our lunch boxes. It was just chaotic, so I was over it. I wanted the pantry to match the rest of the house. So I knew this pantry had potential. I just needed to figure out how to do it and how to configure the space so that it looks aesthetically pleasing, but also it is functional. So I knew I had to take out the shelving, and I wanted to have that L shape that I had at the very bottom of the pantry holding my appliances, and I wanted to use that layout for all of the shelving above. I knew I wanted some type of countertop in the pantry to give it that feel that it's bigger than what it is, or just to have it. I don't know, I just like the look of it. A lot of my Pinterest inspiration had some type of counter inside their walk-in pantries, and I want to create that dream pantry in a mini version. So having a countertop just somehow seemed like a good idea to have in the pantry. So the boards that I used to create the L-shaped inside the pantry are boards that I already had that used to be hanging in the wall space of my laundry area, but like I've said in videos before, I plan on making over that space. So I took those pieces of wood down and thought they would be better used inside the pantry, and I had the exact amount that I needed. So that cut down the cost of the wood to use in the pantry. For my core bowls, I ended up using 2 that I already had thrifted I think a year ago, and I remembered I had those, so I used 2 of those, and then I bought 7 more at Home Depot. So I did purchase some beadboard, and that was $22. I had it cut in half, so it's a 4x48, and I just had them cut it right down the middle at 24 inches. I just screwed the beadboard with some drill screws up at the top and bottom. Once I have my beadboard up, I end up putting the 2x8s in the sizes that my husband cut down with a handsaw to cover up the corners of that 30-inch wall, and it worked perfectly. I am so pleased with how that worked out. I think it just adds more to the character of this pantry. Okay, so this is what I've screwed in on the corners here. I'm gonna have to work in like pieces, so then I'll add shelves, then the brackets, the shelves, and then another piece to cover that spots. And this is just the cheapest, most affordable way that I thought to do it in order to have beadboard and not have to buy a whole lot of it. So let's see how this progresses. Once I paint, I think everything should look cohesive. The first shelf up, I'm not securing anything yet. I'm going to wait till I have all my brackets in line and leveled and all of the pieces in the center, so that way I can commit to their placement. So for the pieces of wood, I wanted them to lay one on top of the other. The engineering part of it was to have 2 corbels on the longest piece of wood, which was going to lay by the 30-inch wall, and then have the smaller board on top of it with 1 corbel on the edge of that board to hold the weight of that one small 24 piece of wood. So once I had all my pieces in place, now it was time to paint. I went to Home Depot and I checked out their neutrals for the Bear brand, and Creamy Mushroom was the paint that I went with. I just loved the color. It was like a brownie gray taupey color. I just really like it. And I had to use a brush. I went ahead and used my angled brush on here because a roller would not get into the grooves of the beadboard. For the countertop piece, it's actually the top portion of a cube organizer in the living room that used to house my son's toys. So I had taken the measurements and knew the cube organizer would actually fit inside the pantry. However, when we tried to put it in there, the doorway was too narrow and didn't allow us to pivot enough to put it inside. So my husband was able to only get the top portion of it inside, which was fine. I just had to figure out a different alternative to add shelving in the bottom. I went to Target and purchased this wire type industrial looking black 3-tier shelving system, and it was about $30. I did go to Goodwill first and try to thrift as much as possible for this makeover. However, I was unsuccessful in finding something cheaper, and it ended up working really well. The shelf was actually the perfect size for underneath this area. So for my storage containers, I knew I wanted glass, and I knew I wanted them to look kind of vintage and to be airtight. So I looked at prices on Amazon and thought it was too steep for me, and went to Walmart, thought the same as well. Went to Target, and it just blew my mind how expensive these canister storage pantry containers organizer things, they're so expensive. For a 4-pack, I was already going to be paying $30 to $40, and I just didn't have that much to put towards it. I ended up remembering that Hobby Lobby sells these glass containers that could be used for food storage as well. And it just so happened that when I went, their glass containers or jars were at 50% off. So I got all of the 13 or 14 containers that I bought from there for $40, not including tax, so about $44 is what I paid for these containers, but that is way more than what I would have gotten if I bought them at Target or Amazon or Walmart. I love the look of these jars. They look very cottage farmhouse style, and they're also glass, so it's see-through and I can see when I'm running out of a particular product that it's in there. I wanted this project to be as cheap as possible, so I used what I already had to make these labels. I had a Cricut marker and some paper that was sticker paper that looked like natural color, and so I used that and just made simple labels and put them on there. So after putting all the labels and putting all the product into my glass containers, I started to get really excited because it was coming together. I also forgot to mention that this pantry originally did not have a light. I ended up purchasing a light that you can mount onto anywhere, and I decided to mount it to the very top of the ceiling in the pantry, and it's battery operated, so I can just switch out the batteries, no problem, and then put it back up there. It has a motion sensor, which helps when every time I open the door, it automatically turns on, and when I close the door, it senses no movement, so it turns off, and which is great because before this was a dark cave that I could not see, and the yellow light by the laundry area just wasn't enough light to actually see everything in my pantry. So this frame right here is added to cover that seam that I have up here from that mistake of while I was drilling, it pulled the board further up. So there's a little seam, and then there is screws right here that this is covering up. But that's why this is here. So it was, I knew I wanted it in the pantry, but it was strategically placed here to cover that. To finish the decor inside the pantry, I hung some copper pieces using some hooks that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. I think these were so neat. I was actually going for a different look, but nothing seemed to be dainty enough and thin enough to hang these copper pieces. These were perfect. These were half off. Original price is $2.99, so I paid half of that, and I ended up purchasing 5 because originally I wanted to hang my cast iron skillets, but I ended up not doing that. I may do that in the future, but for now this is how I like it, just with the copper pieces. I painted the pantry door front and back the same color as the inside, that creamy mushroom color. I also attached some wooden shelves on the inside back of the pantry door, so that way when I opened I could have my spices on the door, and these were perfect. I only purchased 4. I may have to go back and purchase another one in case I build up my spice collection, but for now everything seemed to fit, and I really like it that I can see everything that I have and not overbuy. So it's just been a nice addition to the pantry. The final touch to the pantry was to add some vintage plaque in the front of the door, and I wanted something bigger to make a statement and also look vintage, and the only thing that I could find that was in my price range and that I could get here quickly was from Amazon. It was a lot smaller than I wanted, but I think it still adds a very nice vintage flair to my pantry door, and it is a pewter looking plaque pantry sign, and I ended up just spray painting it with some vintage gold color spray paint on there, and I painted the screws as well, and I think it just looks very charming on the pantry door. So quickly, I want to give you a tour of what my thought process was for functionality in this pantry. So I went with the clear containers so that I can see when I'm running low on a particular product. I also wanted all of the products that I need easily accessible at the very bottom. The second most grabbed items, I wanted them on my middle shelf here. So all of my cans, pastas, pancake mix, all of my rices are going to be in this level. I do cook a lot with rices in most of my meals, so it's always helpful to have things easily available. So on the white containers, I have things like toppings in this one, and all of my salad toppings like croutons, cranberries, and stuff are going to be in there. And in the other one, I have crackers inside of them, which you will see in a little bit. At the very top here, I have already containers on my counters with sugar, wheat flour, and regular flour. So these are backups. Then I also have my brown sugar, cake flour, and powdered sugar, and baking cocoa powders up here, and baking sodas and baking powders. Also, these are more additional can storage in the corner back here. And I have breadcrumbs and cornmeal that I don't buy on a regular basis, so they're just going to be up here. And in my basket, I do have my chips. So I love how this is functional, and I can use my stool to just get up and grab the basket and pull out some chips if I need to. Things that I don't buy on a regular basis and only buy as needed or as meal planned, I will not have a home for it, so it'll just get tucked on the sides or wherever it fits until it is used. Here is the other white container, and in this one I have all of my crackers. They fit perfectly out of the box, laying upright. Like I mentioned before, on this bottom shelf I have my easily accessed everyday items. So I make a protein shake every day, and I need my protein powder and oats, my agave, and I also go for peanut butter, and then I have granola that also my son loves with his yogurt. So those are things that I need easily accessible. So over here on these containers, I have cookies on both of them, and I know it says sugar and flour, but I really like the look of the front side of these containers, so I'm leaving them there. They look really cute and they go with the style of the pantry, and it's also a great way to store cookies. So the decor here is to look pretty, but also to cover these holes. So these organizers come with these holes, but over time I lost, or I don't know, misplaced the little hole fillers that get put on here when you first install them. So this is the one hole that was too far out. I may have to get another cutting board or something to cover that one. But these bowls are covering the one here in the back. And then this cutting board is covering that one. Here's a stool that I had thrifted a couple months ago, and it came in handy in here because it fits perfectly in here, and I can still close the door and use it to grab things that are in the higher shelves. So back here is this slit, and here's all the ugly stuff that normally nobody wants seen. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it provided you some inspiration. I always want to help inspire and motivate. If you don't have your dream home yet, that you can do little makeovers like the one I did and do around my home to help that feel a little bit more, I don't know, joyous about where you currently live until you get, you know, where you want to be. And I love my pantry now. I can't stop staring at it. I open the door and it's like I get all giddy, like, wow, this looks a whole lot better. Who would have thought that this would have turned out this way? And I just love it. It's my dream pantry in a mini form. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed, I would love to have you here. I'd consider it all joy, and you can do so by clicking the red subscribe button down below. And I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye!